I learned a lot from today's discussion and conversation. And for me, I will represent maybe slightly a different story, because so far what I hear is a discussion about the Facebook and about the privacy issue. But as the government official in Taiwan, the issue we are talking about is slightly different. So I want to ask every one of you, do you have the trust in your government? Obviously, so far, not many people trust in the Facebook, but do you have the trust in your government, especially the government decision on this privacy issue? And before I begin, I want to just say a few things about how I feel about so far the things I learned. The first thing I learned is the word chimera. My simple interpretation of the chimera, maybe you don't know, chimera is composed of two words. One is Kai, the other is Mera. Kai represents China, CHI, Mera, America. So when those two countries come together, there would be trouble. No, this, of course, is a joke. But what I mean is that if you have a good tool, like the current technology, but if you put into the wrong hand of the bad guy, then the tool will become very, damage to the society. And so far, the technology we want to use is to enhance the trust among people. But so far, do we see that coming when people begin to use the Facebook to communicate to each other? When I was young as kids, in a small neighborhood, everyone understands or knows about every detail of your neighborhood. So there's no issue of privacy. Everyone knows your neighborhood. He's divorced, he's sick, he has some, accident, something. So everyone understands. But right now, even the neighbor living on your next door, you don't understand him, and you don't knock on his door just by any time. So this is the current situation. So the kids right now communicate by this social media. They don't know how to talk to each other. That's the era we are facing right now. So as the government official, you see the time obviously has changed. So that's why this privacy issue comes into discussion. And as a government official, the goal for us is how to build a society with the new technology to increase the efficiency of the government function. And also, we try to narrow the digital gap. As everyone discussed this morning, there's a price for the data. For poor people, maybe their data not worth so much, but with the rich people, their data may be worth a fortune. Why cause this? And with the new technology, we think the wealth gap is widening, not narrowing. So as a government official, how do we use the technology to narrow the gap instead of widening the gap? And everybody talking about the digital economy, so I'm not going to emphasize on this, the so-called ABCDEFG. Probably some people don't know what is meaning for the F. And for S, F means fintech, and G is the 5G. So that's the technology trend we are facing right now. So how do we regulate those regulation on those development of technology, and especially on the data? Let me tell you, in Taiwan government, we are aiming is to build the government as a smart government. And by definition, our meaning smart government is that people, if you want to access a government service, you don't actually need to go to a government agency or the office. You can hook on government service online and 24/7. So there's no break. Anytime you will need a government service, you just hook online. And the issue we are facing is not the infrastructure, but rather the concept. Especially one important barrier we are facing is the so-called the digital identity. So in Taiwan, if you want to open an account in a bank, you will need 2 ID cards. And if you want to open an account, internet account, so how do bank identify your identification? So this become an issue for us, because if you personally show up in a bank, you have 2 ID, but you want to identify yourself in the internet, what is the proof for you? So that's the current barrier we are facing. And so next year, we want to launch a new scheme called the EID, the digital ID. We want to combine the internet ID with your actual infector ID together. And maybe more in the future, we could have issue an ID for all your identification. Why I say so? Because in Taiwan, you have many ID. One is for the registrator in your home address, something like that. And unlike the US, we do have the driver license, so that's another ID. We have a driver license for car, for automobile, and also we have the ID for your national health insurance. So we have so many ID. So ideally, we want to converge all ID into one ID. But the difficulty we're facing is just like this data protection and the privacy issue. You know, we face opposition saying that with what kind of law or authority the government can issue the EID. Government has no right to issue the EID. You know, people say, I prefer my current ID. I have 4 ID. I don't want just one single ID. My concern is that I fear that the government is going to reveal my personal information, to leak this personal information. They worry about if all the information right now stored in different ID, but right now stored in one ID. So if your ID card being stolen by someone else, all your information will be leaking outside. So our explanation for this is that your ID card, your EID card, we don't store any information in the card. The ID card is just a key to open up your information stored in the different government department. And so that's our goal, to convince people what we are doing. But so far, we are not very successful. But with today's lesson I learned, I think we should study this issue more deeper and try to make people trust the government. We are doing everything we can to make sure your privacy is secure, will not be stolen by someone else. And so the data policy, this is one concern. Another concern with our data policy is some of the business, they want to commercialize the data stored in the government data bank. And so that is the question I want to ask you. Do you agree or disagree the government can make use of those data, public data, into commercial use? Say yes. Not many people. Okay, that's the lesson I learned today. For us, we are under pressure because there are many new startups. They say, without government providing those healthcare data, how can I use the technology to analyze the data to come up with the new applications? So we are under pressure to open up those data. Not to mention that the colleague just mentioned that UK, they have this open banking, and Europe, you have this open data initiative. So we are following the same trend. So with this data, we want to have the adequate regulation and also with the adequate technology. And one thing we try to convince people is that the data in our hands, the public data, even if we want to commercialize use on those data, we will make sure your identification will not reveal to the public. So the technology we are using is to make sure those data are like de-identificationized or like anonymized. So nobody will know who is the data owner. So it's just a group of data. Like we have the national healthcare data in Taiwan. This is the most complete data bank regarding to the residents, their health status. So if we want to use the data, we want to know in what area, what's the chances of causing a cancer, what is the probability, in what area the chances are the highest. So this has nothing to do with individual identity. This is rather with the pattern we want to analyze. But still, we need to convince people the data we make your name disappear is truly make your name disappear. Because with the nowadays technology, there's a way to recover your identification. And so that's the issue we are facing. And so let me tell you about our infrastructure on data. Right now, all the citizens in Taiwan, they have all kinds of data stored in different apartments. For example, if you are traveling overseas, you need to pass the custom. So you have your travel records. And of course, you also, maybe you have your criminal records, and you have your national health records, right? You have all kinds of records stored in the government, different agency. And right now, as people discuss who owns the data, we believe the individual, they own the data. So the data right belong to the individual, belong to the residents. But how do we make sure this individual, this household, they know how to use their data? One common issue is that in Taiwan, we have a consolidated credit information center. So if you borrow money from the bank, that data will come into that center. And so right now, we have some new startup. It's called personal lending, P2P lending. But those P2P lending, their information, they also want to know the credit information about the individual. But right now, the situation is they ask the person who need the lending to download their credit information from this center and then pass the information to the P2P lending. But the P2P lending company, they said this is too troublesome. We want to have a direct connect to the center so we can check on the personal credit information directly. Of course, they need approval of the individual, but they want to save time to direct connections. So what do you think? Should we open the information, this center to the P2P lending? If we say no, they say government is very conservative. Now try to develop the new startups. So if we open up the data to the P2P lending company, something is missing here. Because this center for the credit information, they only have the information for the bank borrowing, for the bank activity, but they don't have the information on the P2P lending. So if I, as a person, I borrow money from the bank, the information is stored in the information center. But I borrow money from the P2P lending, there's information is missing. And so there's no complete information. There's always information asymmetry. And so how do we do with that? And so as the government official, we want to build an infrastructure. We want to build a highway and connect all the information stored in the government. And the consumer owns the key. So if necessary, consumer can open up and discretionary choose which information he wants to reveal to the third party and to increase the commercial use. And so that's our current policy. And the future, by doing this, we hope to increase the GDP, increase the value added, increase all the service providing activity in Taiwan. But of course, without strengthening the regulation on the private issue, without strengthening the data protection measures, we are not able to do this. And so far, we have in the government hands, we have 41,300 data set has been released. But not many people know we release so many data. So the data is like unexplored treasure. And So we have, like I mentioned earlier, we have information on trade industry, passport and visa, agricultural information, and also disaster prevention, all the traffic data. So if you are in a traffic jam, you can watch the computer and telling them which route you should bypass to save time. And also for the schooling and teaching, what is the advantage to have this data? By using the blockchain technology, right now we are doing some experiment. Because in Taiwan, if you want to get a new job, and the company will quite often ask you to provide some schooling documentation, like your diploma, but sometimes it's fake. Because some people like to say, I graduated from Harvard, I graduated from some very well-known university. But by using the blockchain technology, right now, we have the local government beginning to, like once you graduate, your document automatically pass or transmit to the cloud and save it in the cloud. So in the future, you go to your new company, the company asks you for the diploma, you say, this is my diploma, saving in the cloud. So there's no fake document anymore. So this is one true example we are trying. And also for the legal compliance issue, there are some interesting cases. Maybe you guys will be face the same situation. In Taiwan, to open a new account, there's new technology like voice recognition, facial recognition, iris recognition. And the question comes with this is, the bank has your biological information, like your face, your voice, your iris. Can bank utilize this information? So should this data belonging to the area that banks are allowed to open, like open data? Of course, what I say is 100% getting approval from the individual who owns the data. But here's still the question. Because in Taiwan, according to the Data Protection Act, the data comes with two kinds. One is the general data. Another is called the sensitive data, like your sex intention, like your religion, something like that. And biological, is also quite sensitive, because like some people, if I have some kind of disease, if the insurance company knows I have the disease, they will reject my application for this. So if the insurance company with the open data, they ask the bank transfer the biological information to them. So obviously, this is going to affect some commercial behavior and activities. And so in Taiwan, in order to connect with the Europe's GDPR concept, we formed a special tax office. It's called the Personal PDP, Personal Data Protection Task Force. And right now we are discussing with the EU, and hopefully next year we will be ratified by EU for this adequacy certification, and will become maybe the second country in Asia, just after Japan, to 100% conform to the GDPR principle. And so let me finally just put on another example. This related with the topic we'll discuss for the next round. In Taiwan, as I mentioned earlier, we have this data for all the national health care. And recently, we subsidized the Bureau for the National Health. We subsidized and begin to use the AI, the machine learning, to help them to analyze those photos with the CT photo, MRI photo, X-ray photo, and endoscopy photos. Why we are doing so? Because by using the AI as assistance, they are able to detect the disease with more accuracy. But in Taiwan, you have your annual health checkup, and the doctor will quite often saying, this year your record showing general good shape, but somehow your lung have some spot, maybe I recommend you do the second checkup. So by hearing this bad news, quite often you'll go to the second hospital. And in the second hospital, you will have your second set of X-ray or MRT, being doing. So there's a lot of waste on taking so many photos. So by using AI, we are able to detect, the actual occurrence of the disease is usually quite large, smaller than the photos being taken. So we want to use the AI to assist to reduce the waste of the too many photos being taken. So I think the technology, as I mentioned at the very beginning, if in good use, this could enhance the efficiency, reduce the cost. But if into the wrong hands, then this will create trouble. This will create issues. And so hopefully I learned from you. And there's some photo, this is a nice view in Taipei. So welcome to Taipei and take a few side trip. And maybe in Taiwan, you can share with us your experience on this data management. And thank you for your attention. Thank you.